Good morning from Blackpool Pleasure Beach. I'm about to go inside there and get a tour. Sounds like there's quite a lot to see and some stuff that we're going to get as well. I will be discussing the cost of this one at the end because I think that's been the biggest bone of contention for a lot of people. So let's see what 250 quid gets you at Blackpool.
Maybe not the most glamorous place in Valhalla, but this is, so everyone is, yeah, sorry. So in here, switch room, so all the power for Valhalla and actually other parts of the park comes into this room, and then it's distributed inside Valhalla. Some of this power actually goes off to the Globe Theatre, and also to Loki, so there's sort of a bit of a power hub and one of our staff buildings as well. So in here, it's sort of that end, this end here deals with power distribution, because there is a heck of a lot of it in here, it's huge. And when we walk around in a sec, the other side of this also is some power district. Behind you here, this is all to do with control of pumps. This is specifically the big waterfall at the front of the ride. And additionally, like for example, pump number 6, this deals with movement of water in the ride for water effects. So that pump has to run for things like the crushing logs, as it's critical for the refilling of its reservoirs for it to operate. So at the front of the ride, we like to always have the waterfalls on because they look impressive. Sometimes, depending on wind, weather, at worst they'll be off. Sometimes we run them on a reduced capacity because when the wind catches it, it sort of takes it downstream quite a lot and you end up getting wet when you're walking past an outside Derby racer.
You can see we're actually right at the top of Downstream 1, which is the steep drop, and the boat here is on the booster wheels, which is one of the stopping points. So if we had to clear the ride for whatever reason, you had a boat here, we would ask the guests to step out onto here. The main hazard here is actually knocking your head on here, which is why that is there. But most guests have got no idea that they're on the top of a 60-foot drop just there.
Basically, this system here, when we re-imaged the ride, we used to run MEFOG in the old days. But MEFOG's an American brand and CoreFog's British brands. When we rebranded it, we wanted to put more fog in, so we needed a bigger unit, so that's why we ended up changing from MEFOG to CoreFog. Basically, how this system works is we get fresh water, mains water, comes into this bucket here, which is full of salt. That gives the solids take out the minerals and stuff like that out of the water, so it reduces the lime scale going through the system. Then it comes into this holding tank, which we try and keep between these levels here. Once it's come out of the holding tank, it comes into some filters. These two filters go on the front, then we've got a UV filter. So the purpose of UV filters, UV lights kill any bacteria or any diseases in the water. This all gets tested once a week in-house. It also gets tested by an outside third once a month. Once it leaves this, it then goes into what we call misting pumps. We have 3 misting pumps. Pump 1 and 2 always run in. The third will kick in if needed. These keep system pressure to 70 bar. So what happens is more comes in, pressure to 70 bar, comes to the outlet, and from the outlet it's the high pressure hoses that run into the show building. The furthest point this runs is the flame room on the flame vent. We also have it to the front, we have got the turntable. You can isolate any of these effects at any time from one issue to them just by isolating them here. So basically, at the end of each line, we've got nozzle rail, which is like a better rail. It's got nozzles on these nozzles designed, so when the high pressure water hits it, it atomises and that's what causes you mist. So basically this now, we used to have 4 or 5 throughout the ride before, so we have the water system.
So this is the old snow thing.
Yeah.
Obviously this is where the magic happens for the ride itself. So we have our little CCTV room in here. There are 49 cameras that cover the entire ride. So from the top left to the bottom right, you can follow a single boat all the way around the ride. You will be able to see every single boat at all times. These ones are mainly stoppage points, so if the ride does stop and you don't want to be looking on there, you can see where all your boats have stopped on these screens. Obviously, if these guys see anything, they'll communicate with the console operator and they'll deal with the stoppage that way. We do have our lovely little microphone to talk to our guests if we need to. I mean, depending on how long you've been coming on Valhalla, you've probably heard my voice a lot on these. Just, do you want to explain a bit about what you would do in here?
Yeah, of course. So obviously, one of my main jobs in here is to kind of send the boats out and space the boats. So on this screen here, on like a normal 8-boat service, if you just see this middle camera here at the top, we send the boat out as like another boat would then pass that point, if that makes sense, and that's how we kind of space the ride. Obviously on here you've got 2 buttons like Leanne said at the bottom. You've got restart and stop. So obviously that's kind of just stop and start the conveyor at any time. Down here we've got our AV system for the whole ride. So again we can start and stop the entire AV system for the whole ride just with that one button. We also have like the messages, which plays like a station announcement, which I can show you if you want. Yeah. There we go. So it's just like generic delay messages or evacuation messages. And then the top ones here are all like the inside ride messages. So we've got things like remain seated, obviously if you've got your hands in the water, there's another one for that. You've got ride delays in there, like so. And then on this panel here, we have the automatic start and stop. So that'll basically put the ride into automatic or stop the ride. Obviously in automatic mode, everything does itself. And then like obviously if it's in stop, or like we're in like the manual mode, we can actually go to different points of the ride and then kind of move boats around. So for example, the turntable. But yeah, like I say, that's pretty much the console screen.
It's a lot of cameras for one person to watch, but you just get on with it, don't we?
Yeah, definitely.
So is there usually one person in here and one person?
Yeah, one in each, yeah.
Operators, yeah.
Obviously, the console operator is limited to what they can see because it's such a small screen. So if they notice anything, they'll talk to each other and they'll do whatever they need to do with the ride.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is obviously communication between us both. So obviously whoever's in there, they start communicating with me and vice versa.
This isn't where the ride-on cab used to be, is it?
No, it used to be up there, across. So you were facing that way, looking down.
And was there a technical reason to move it, or was it just that it looks
It
nicer?
just wasn't adequate, to be fair with you. It just, even the room for it just wasn't enough room up top.
Right.
So how's the boat sit on the lift? Underneath the boat you'll see some little V's. That is what holds the boat to the lift. So as you look on the lift or out of the station conveyor belt, you've got the slats, they've got these rubber little noggins on them. As the boat comes up, these rubbers will engage onto that, and that's what grips the boat. So you'll have all the slats underneath, not just one, but it's them rubbers that go into that, grips the boat onto the lift. So they just literally grip that, and that's what holds the boat onto the lift.
And the bit at the back's where the drainage is.
And the back is where the drainage is. And I haven't got any on this, but you'll see it on this one here. I'll take them off in a minute. So these are where when it goes up the lift, they drain out the back. Here we go. They drain out through these. The idea of these is when the water flows towards it, it pushes and close. And when they go on the lift, the water will force it open. But over time, these deteriorate and they might slip. So sometimes your boat might fill up a little bit more than it should do. But then when we get the boat out, we notice these. Because these are checked every morning. So, but it's not to say I've checked that this morning. It might open up in the day. But we just change these on a daily basis. That there is £14 each. So throughout, when we re-imaged the ride, decided to change a lot of the sensors and a lot of the wiring. So we went to the new Pharos system that Adam put in. We have 9 of these inside the ride. This one here controls basically from the bottom of the lift to the top of the lift. So as a boat passes a sensor, say let's pick Odin's head split sheet at the top. Boat's going up the lift, flags the sensor, it'll come back to this. This will then talk to all other 9 control panels in the ride and the sub to make sure there's no e-stop press, the ride's in automatic, the AV system's in auto, before it allows that effect to trigger. So we've constantly got 9 of these throughout, constantly talking to each other. So if you imagine when you've got 8 boats, 10 boats, the boats go around all day, these are constantly going, chatting away.
Obviously we're at the turntable now. This was actually completely new when we did the reimagining. That's lift 1, which you've walked up before, and then that over there is lift 2. So the swinging chandelier is at the top of that lift over there. I need to tell you about the trees. So the trees that are in the garden scene, which we added, are exactly the same trees as the ones that you saw on set in Game of Thrones. So we have the same trees as Game of Thrones.
Right, well that's the tour finished now, so let's see if I can try and remember everything we did, because there was a heck of a lot in there. Just to put this in context, it is now 2:30 and it started at 11. So that is 3.5 hours. It did say it would be about 90 minutes to 2 hours. It was 3.5 hours. In fact, the guys are just leaving there from our banquet, which I'll get to in a minute. But basically, we went in and saw various behind-the-scenes sections. I will put some footage in here. I'll probably have a separate video that is just raw footage from behind the scenes if anyone wants to see as much as I filmed. But that was the thing, there was absolutely no restrictions. You know, some of these tours, they're very much like, oh, you know, you can't film here, or, you know, you've got to have your camera secured or that. They basically just said, you drop your camera, tough, we're not getting it back. Like, they're just common sense, simple. So we saw inside the ride-up cab, got to sit in the seat. It's mental. They have now got something like 30 CCTV cameras, but up until the reimagining, they had 4 for that entire ride, which is absolutely bonkers. And then obviously they were telling us about how the control system works. It is a very, very complicated beast, and bizarrely less complicated than it used to be. One of the things they were saying was that, you know, a lot of the money went into the steel works inside. It's, you know, it's a 20-year-old building, or 25 years now. So a lot of it was stuff you can't see. We did ask them about the boats and the drainage, and one of the things they did say is they did talk about new boats, but each boat is about 100 grand. So, you know, they are considering slowly phasing in new boats, but as it stands right now, we have these boats. So listen, I thoroughly enjoyed it. The banquet, I mean, the food was ridiculous, more than we could eat. I was expecting like a hot dog and chips, but it was like a whole rotisserie chicken each. There was vegetarian and vegan options. Chips, potatoes, coleslaw, stuffing, the bread, camembert bread, the tomatoes, there's loads of fruit on the table, and then ribs turned up. Like, too much food. We also got a bunch of things as well. So we got these Valhalla pretzels. Somebody's already opened them. Apparently it's a normal packet of pretzels inside a second sleeve. But, you know, there's that. We all got a Valhalla Beyond coaster. So that's quite nice. Postcard, which is kind of the norm for these behind-the-scenes tours. I do have a speedy shot for one go on Valhalla, although it's quite late now and I have to leave soon, so I'm probably not going to take advantage of that. And then the other thing is that we all got, I'm going to turn you around, we all got given these little keepsakes. Now these are handmade little skulls, which is fantastic. These little things here on a sort of keyring, and I got number 2. They didn't actually give out number 1, because although there was 10 slots, there was one person not here. Now, that kind of ties into the price. Most expensive, and they quite openly acknowledge that. I mean, I don't think any of us expected the food that we got. In fact, do you know what? Nobody's here. Let me take you over and show you the spread, the leftovers of the spread, just to put this into context. There's a whole table of food, like an insane amount of food. And all of that stuff. Now, they did say it's intentionally expensive to be exclusive, right? They might run this again, but they certainly don't expect it to be a regular, like, multiple times a year kind of event. Like, the cost is because it is exclusive. I know that upsets a lot of people because there's a ridiculous number of people who want to get on this ride, the behind the scenes part of it. That's not uncommon, right? I know everybody's interpretation of value for money will change, right? Because we all have a different level of disposable income. I'm fortunate enough that when this came up, I just booked it. And I totally understand that there are people who would take weeks, if not months, to save that amount, or possibly just cannot ever save that amount of money. And I get that. But that's not unique to this experience. There are loads of experiences that I cannot afford. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and everybody that did it said the same thing. I don't think anybody said it was bad value for money. And they did ask us. They specifically asked us, what was good, what was bad. The one criticism I had for them is that given that price, it would have been good to include park tickets. Now, it doesn't bother me. I've got a season pass. Maybe even parking, because I paid 20 quid. And in my case, I've spent 70 quid in petrol to get down here because I live so far away. Listen, as I said, the value varies per person. We've all thoroughly enjoyed it. I've seen more of that ride and new things about that ride and how it all hangs together. It is just a very, very complex beast. And I'm just very grateful to the park for putting this on and allowing us to experience it and film it. So thoroughly enjoyed it. And listen, if it came up again, I wouldn't do it again because I don't think there'd be anything that I've not seen the first time round. But if you are somebody who is very passionate about the ride and have the funds available, because I appreciate that is a barrier to a lot of people, I can't recommend it enough. So yes, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I'd love to know your comments down below because, as I say, I guarantee there are lots of people watching this going, rip off, far too much money, money grabbing, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I don't think that's the case. I think they intentionally made it pricey to be exclusive. And if it was a money grabbing thing, they would be running it all the time, right? They would be running this every couple of months to go, well, there's £2,500 we've made, £2,500. That's clearly not their intention. So, as always, this is a park that knows how to do these kind of events. It felt very personal and exclusive. We got to take our time. We weren't rushed through anything. As I say, they predicted it to be 90 minutes. It took 3.5 hours. We've been sitting chilling and chatting, eating food for the last 45 minutes. But it has just been so relaxed, so chilled, and so enjoyable. So hats off to Pleasure Beach, and a massive thank you to Andy and his team for showing us around. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this one, hit that like button. Tell me down below what you think, and make sure you're subscribed for other content coming out, because I've still got some America videos to go. I've been Chris, you've been watching Coaster Dad. See you in the next one. Adios.